Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first episode of Raw vs. Smackdown Live Weekly Review for the week of July 31st, 2016. Tonight we will start with the Raw half of our review, and it was a good review. It was a good episode of Monday Night Raw last Monday night. First, we start off with the segment between Sasha Banks and Charlotte, which ended up expanding into the segment with Jericho and Enzo, which led to a mixed tag team match. But the banter between Charlotte and Sasha Banks before anyone else got involved, it was golden. Bringing Jericho, who is great on the mic, and having kind of a career resurgence was great. And then Enzo, who is just beautiful. It's almost platinum looking. He is amazing on the mic. So those four actually showed a lot, at least with the women, because they don't talk often. Like, you hear Charlotte talking every now and again, but Sasha doesn't always say that much. She doesn't get a lot of mic time. This was that kind of a breakout moment, especially with her being champion. Give her a little bit more mic time, because that was some beautiful comments going both ways. The banter was brilliant. The match was good. The mixed tag team match was good. Charlotte went over with the roll-up, which made some sense. They're going to have a match at SummerSlam, so, why have Sasha just dominate Charlotte? It's not going to make any sense. Let Dana Brooke come out and interfere or whatever. It does look like there might be a SummerSlam match between Jericho and Owens versus Enzo and Cass, because Owens was on commentary and Cass kind of ran down at the end of after the match to pull Jericho off of Enzo and everything. So there might be a SummerSlam feud, or at least a SummerSlam match between those two. I don't see that feud going too long, but there might be some kind of match there. Well, then the next one, we have a segment between Rollins and Balor that at least developed their feud. It looked like it was starting to get it was looking really competitive looking. It was back and forth. It was almost getting personal in a way. They were just going back and forth saying, I'm going to beat you, you're going to, I'm going to beat you, and then, no, I'm going to beat you. And it was like, it was looking really good and really, really good television, at least for that moment. And then then it leads into the match towards the end of the night where Rollins is like, I'm going to beat up your best friend, Sami Zayn. We'll get to that later. The next thing that I got written down for my notes, we have the U.S. title match between Rusev and Mark Henry, which a match he requested because he had felt like the comment he made was he had made renovations to the Hall of Pain. Now, they had different plans for him on camera. They had different plans for him to be more of a mentor. And he was like, you know what? I may be old, but I want to go into my last leg of my career. They had a good match. I didn't like the idea that throughout, like, you listen to the commentary and they made this guy come out like Mr. America instead of being the curator of the Hall of Pain. He came out looking like he was all America. I understand he's from Texas. I understand he's American. But not every American is bleeding red, white, and blue every time they speak. It vomits the American flag. We don't need to push America versus Bulgaria or America whatever. Don't need to push that. And going into the next part, after the match, after Rusev retains his title, Roman Reigns comes out. Everyone's favorite Samoan. And what I liked about this, at least it gives Roman Reigns a chance to become more credible. I think he was thrown into the spotlight way too fast. And so giving Roman Reigns an opportunity to end the mid-card, somewhere he should have been, probably to start off. Because you look at his Shield mates, and his Shield mates have been independent and running the independent circuits for years before they even got a shot at FCW/NXT. And then they got called up. Roman Reigns was a former football player, a collegiate football player, gets called up, went to FCW for a few I think it was like months or a couple, maybe a year, gets called up with the Shield, and he's the world champion about 2 years later. It's like, whoa, slow it down a little bit. I know he's Samoan, and I know he's the cousin. I don't know if that's actually real or not. The cousin of The Rock, and the cousin of the nephew of Rikishi, and the cousins to the Usos, and he's got the great Anoa'i blood running through his veins. But we need to slow down on this guy. Let him develop with the crowd first, and that's why I think this U.S. title run, if he's going to have a match or a couple matches with Rusev, will develop him as a character. I also don't want to see him running down as Mr. America. Run him down if he's a Samoan, but let him look like he's that, he walked in, stared down Rusev, and then walked out after destroying him, after whipping him around. So let him look like a monster. Let him look like a Samoan bulldozer, another one of his cousins, and be that dominant. I think there might be a U.S. title match in his future. I don't want to see him win it at SummerSlam, but I don't know what their decisions are. But it looks like it could be at least a good match. Then we move into the tag team match between the New Day and the Club, where they had banned Xavier Woods from ringside. I've always felt like Xavier Woods was like the manager, kind of like the Jimmy Hart of the group. He was the guy where Jimmy Hart was the megaphone guy. He was the saxophone, trombone. I'm not a band person, so I really don't know what it is. But that's what I felt like Xavier Woods was. And so him kind of being pushed aside doesn't exactly... I think he's great, but that's what I think. But they had a quick roll-up pin. The New Day had a quick roll-up pin on the Club to get the victory, and then the Club just completely destroyed them on the outside. Just threw him around barricades and steps and everything. Xavier Woods tries to come down and make a save, and he gets laid out as well. And it made the Club look good. It made Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows look strong, and they didn't get beat, quote unquote, clean. It was a roll up. It didn't look dominant. It didn't look like they made him submit or they made him, weakened him with the big ending. It was a roll up. Then we have the match between Cesaro and Sheamus, where they were backstage with Stephanie and McFoley, and they had said they had aired their discomforts, their own discomforts. They weren't on each other's sides. They had aired this discomforts, and they were placing a match because they were complaining about the draft stock. They were drafted way too low. That's what they were saying. And Sheamus was saying something about Mark Henry getting a U.S. title match before he did. And I was like, you know what? At least they're integrating the draft standings. They're integrating that into a storyline. At least saying, like, these people, they're disgruntled about where they were drafted. Let's put them in a story. I don't know if this is long term, but at least it's good integration. So... then we've got the Rollins versus Sami Zayn match. Now this match was, to me, it served as a tune-up. It served as Seth Rollins' tune-up match for his match against Balor. It served as a tune-up, and so wasn't too thrilled. It was a good match, but I wasn't too thrilled about it. And then we'll get to the final segment with Lesnar and Heyman. Heyman, great on the mic. I think everyone kind of already knows that. Heyman being great on the mic, did his good old thing, hyped up Lesnar and did all that stuff, and then kind of pushed out his shtick, and then he was saying that there's no way that Orton's going to get Brock in the position to lay him out with the RKO. And then out of nowhere, he comes out of the crowd, hits him with the RKO, and then runs back through the crowd to escape. And it was a good way to do that feud. And then we'll see later on Smackdown that came back to bite Orton, but at least we see something happen. Now, when I was watching Raw, I was watching it through Hulu. So there are 4 matches that did not come across the Hulu broadcast, but I looked them up just to make sure I give this a fair showing with SmackDown. There were 4 matches. There were 2, as I call them, enhancement matches featuring Strowman and Nia Jax. They both won because they had to be like monsters. And then there were 2 matches that were at what I'd probably end up saying were like pre-show, SummerSlam pre-show feuds. You had the Shining Stars versus the Golden Truth because they had 2 weeks in a row where they had some kind of encounter with each other. So if this feud continues, it's probably going to be in the pre-show of SummerSlam. And then we also have Darren Young and Titus O'Neil because of their previous tag team history. If they continue with what's going on there's a chance that this will probably be a pre-show feud, but I don't see this extending beyond that. So the final tally for the Raw score is 6 points. And now we get to the SmackDown portion of the weekly review. So the SmackDown episode started off with, it was a backstage segment between Shane McMahon, Daniel Bryan, a group of security guards, all looking at like a TV monitor of what Orton did the previous night on Raw. They go and mobilize the security, make sure you guard the doors and everything, keep the beast incarnate out of the arena. Cool. We go forward, and The Miz interrupts them as they're walking and says he was doing all you treat me like a Hollywood A-lister. And it's like, I really don't like you at all. I don't. So they end up putting him saying that he's got he will have a title match at SummerSlam. But his opponent is going to be determined by a triple threat match against that, where the participants are 3 guys who recently debuted. Kalisto debuted in 2015, and then Corbin and Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews, who debuted as well in 2016. Now, good match, but we'll get to that. So the first segment starts off after Ambrose kind of makes an introduction saying, hey, I'm going to go out to the ring and I'm going to lay in my stuff. I'm going to talk to my audience. So he does that, goes out there, and Ambrose is quick. Well, Ambrose calls out Ziggler. Ziggler gets in there, and then they're like, we're kind of alike. And Ambrose is like, no, we're not. No, we're not. And kind of lays in some reality on Ziggler. And now the funny part was, and I love this, Ziggler mentions the Spirit Squad. And I'm like, oh my brother, that is amazing. Not that it's the greatest thing in the world, but I'm like, dude, he mentioned the Spirit Squad. You know, something that no one mentioned. No one mentioned the fact that this guy came in as a male cheerleader. No one has. And then you kind of hear JBL in the background like, he did. And then they were kind of going back and forth, and Ziggler finally started to rile up a little bit and kind of like show a little more than just the fun-loving. Like, I've had this problem with Ziggler probably since a few years ago. Dolph Ziggler has looked a lot like a copycat wrestler. A lot of his shtick comes from other wrestlers. Now, I'm sure everyone's going to say, well, no wrestler's original. Every wrestler has got, something that goes back to another wrestler. And it's like, I understand. But everything that Dolph Ziggler, like his mannerisms and everything, almost look a lot like Shawn Michaels. He looks like Shawn Michaels 2.0. He doesn't look like Dolph Ziggler 1.0. He doesn't look like a new guy. He doesn't have his own shtick to it. It looks like he's maybe took a slight spin on what Shawn Michaels did. He uses that super kick, and now he's using that as a finisher instead of an actual, instead of his signature. He's using a super kick as a finisher. So that's happening. And there's certain pieces of his stuff that looks like a copycat. But here's what I will say: that segment he had with Ambrose, I was like, this guy is starting to come out a little bit more, and he's actually starting to get a little bit of a fire underneath him. Hopefully he doesn't regress, but for this week I was actually impressed with Dolph Ziggler. So, we go into that. He turns up the intensity, Dean leaves the ring, and Wyatt hits his music. Wyatt comes out, hits him with Sister Abigail, and challenges him to a match in the main event. And if he wins for the number one contendership for the WWE Championship, we'll get to that match. That match was pretty good as well. I actually did like that one. So we'll go into the first match of the night, the triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship between Apollo Crews, Baron Corbin, and Kalisto. Apollo Crews kind of comes up with a victory. He comes up with a victory, getting his first big opportunity to do something in the WWE. And then Miz goes in there and takes out, I think he took out Crews. Took out Apollo Crews. Then Baron Corbin's like, what are you doing? And takes out Miz. And Baron Corbin's the only one standing. So I'm hoping Baron Corbin at least gets an opportunity for the Intercontinental title in the future. Well, here's the first negative of the night. Eva Marie versus Becky Lynch. If you can even call this a match. I don't know what was going on. But we pretty much have... Okay, Becky Lynch comes out to the ring. And then Eva Marie pretty much gets like another like minute of a segment. Like a minute of an entrance, I'm sorry. A minute of an entrance. And then she's like sitting there holding her leg saying, you know, she hurt her leg or something. And I'm like, if this is a work, what the heck? Or why are you wasting my time? If this isn't a work, how the heck do you injure your leg getting into the ring? You know, you're either Kevin Nash in disguise, or you aren't suited for the ring. If this was a shoot, but if it's a work, I don't understand why you'd even book that. It was just frustrating. So that's the first negative of the night. Then we've got American Alpha debuting against the Vaudevillains. Strong showing. It actually was reflective of what they have done in NXT. They're tandem wrestling. They do a lot of that kind of stuff, and I'm sure a lot of people in NXT do that same kind of style. It's a lot of tandem wrestling, but they do a really good job. It looks really good. It's almost kind of like it doesn't really slow down that often. And then they hit the Grand Amplitude, they hit the pin, 1, 2, 3, they win, and that's it. It was kind of lackluster, but then again, there really isn't a tag team division over there, so there's not like a promo that they're going to cut to make themselves look really good. But I felt like their match was brilliant. Now we'll go into the Styles Cena match. That Styles Cena segment, it looked like, because Styles was challenging his motive for still being there. He's been there for 14, 15 years. He's won all the championships that he could ever win. He's got every accolade. Why is he still here? And Cena retorts, for the kids, for the parents, for whatever, because I love the company, all that kind of stuff. And it was like, okay, all right, there's a little bit of a fire there. Cena always kind of gets worked up when the kids get involved, but then Styles kind of has a different kind of reaction to it, kind of chuckled it, kind of laughs it off, saying, it's like, I knew you'd say that. And then it gets a little bit hotter a little more heated, when Styles says, hey, 1-on-1, no club, SummerSlam, no, just me and you, no club, 1-on-1, but if I beat you, you come out here on Smackdown and you say AJ Styles is better than John Cena. If you don't, you're a liar. If you do, you're a loser. And I'm like, brilliant. Brilliant. That's an up. That's a positive. Then we've got Orton versus Fandango. Their rationale for having this match was because of what he said about 9 days ago at Battleground, that he insulted Fandango through Jericho. And it's like, oh my gosh, they're grasping at straws here. the match was pretty much a glorified bathroom break. Like, even for Orton being involved in the match, it was a bathroom break, and then here comes Lesnar. Here comes Lesnar. But yeah, it's like, that one, it just didn't make any sense. I'm going to have to give that one a negative. And then we have Natalya versus Carmella. This match stemmed from a panel interview that they had. I felt like it was a decent interview. It was kind of like a decent little segment. And then they were challenged to a match. And like, I kind of see Natalya and Becky Lynch as like the mainstays, the number 1 and 2 in the women's division on SmackDown. And I can see Carmella and Alexa Bliss being like 3 and 4, and I'm thinking, okay, Carmella's got a little bit to hold her on a mic, so why not we just see what kind of goes on here? Pretty much, and she's good on the ring too, but pretty much this match doesn't even get into the ring. The women do not have a single match on SmackDown this week. They don't. What was supposed to be a match pretty much ends in a ambush that leads to a sharpshooter, and that's the end of that. It was just a small little segment just to kind of get some passing through to get to the Wyatt Ziggler match. Like I said, this was a good match. This match, I felt like, here we go. I really wanted to see Wyatt win for some reason. Again, stemming back for a while, I'm not a huge fan of Dolph Ziggler. While I did like that promo that he cut, I was like, you know what, I'm still skeptical. I wanted to see Bray kind of get that opportunity. And because I actually wanted to see him win the Fatal 4-Way, or the 6-pack that happened last week. But that didn't happen. Ziggler wins that, then Ziggler beats Bray. But I felt like throughout the match, you see, even through the entrance, that's just something to judge at the entrance. Look at how Dolph Ziggler enters the arena. Normally, Dolph Ziggler is doing all the jiving and everything when he gets up on the stage, and he's, running his hand through his hair and all that stuff. No, not this Dolph Ziggler. This Dolph Ziggler had a little bit more fire to him. And every promo that you saw running up to it, he was like, Shane and Daniel, they don't believe in me anymore. They don't. And I'm like, brilliant. This guy's got a back against the wall. He's the paranoid Dolph Ziggler kind of person, where it's like, you know what? No one believes in me. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to prove everyone that what I'm worth. And it's like, that's the fire. That's the fire I want to see. And it's like, that's what I wanted to see out of Dolph. And it's brilliant. So throughout the match, we actually see, it's like Ziggler hits him with the zigzag. Pinned him, 1-2, kick out, didn't work. Bray kind of tried to, before the zigzag, try to like loosen up the turnbuckle. Well, in frustration, Dolph rips off the turnbuckle. And it was just like, okay, so is he going to get to the point where it's like, I will do whatever it takes to win? Eventually he gets to that point. I think he takes Bray's head, slams it into the turnbuckle, and then eventually hits him with a super kick to pin him, 1, 2, 3. And then in comes, Dolph's sitting there celebrating, and then he's yelling at Ambrose, who's at ringside. It's like, you and me, SummerSlam. It's going to be you and me, one-on-one at SummerSlam, all that kind of stuff. Rowan comes out. They get into it. Rowan attacks Ziggler. Bray starts to get up and starts to mobilize. And then Ambrose gets in to help Ziggler, which is interesting. But Ambrose gets in to help Ziggler, but it ends up being for nothing, as Wyatt and Rowan get the upper hand, and they conclude the night as victorious as they are. I wasn't really sure if they were going to continue with the Wyatt family angle, having Wyatt and Rowan on the same show, if they were going to continue going down that road, but I guess they did. So what we'll see is how this kind of plays out for the future. But for right now, we've got Ziggler as the number 1 contender again. And to be honest, the show was was better. I'm going to say it was better than it was last week. It had some, there was some positives. The super negatives, it was the women's division this week. The women's matches this week, or the lack thereof, I guess, was just awful. it was just awful. And that's really what pulled the show down, was the fact that the women's matches were nothing. And so for the final score for this week's SmackDown, I'm going to give it a score of 2 points. And so, with that being said, Raw takes this week's edition of the Raw vs. SmackDown Weekly Review with a score of 6-2. We'll see if SmackDown can do any better next week. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please leave a comment in the description and leave a comment below with your opinion on how these week's Raw and SmackDowns went, what you guys think about those. Share with a friend who is into this kind of content, and I will see you all next week for the next edition of Raw vs. SmackDown Live Weekly Review.